Alright. Well, I wanted to make this video earlier, but I wanted to get my thoughts together. But now couldn't be a much better time to come up with this. So yeah, gonna make this quick because my phone won't be able to hold a lot of data. So mainly I want to get the social aspect of Stellar Blade out the way first. The sex appeal shouldn't even matter. The main character and character designs should look great, and it should not be the selling point of the game. So everybody going crazy over that is just a bunch of immature people. So there's that. Yeah, the graphics and stuff should be, the production value should be good and fantastic, but it's not supposed to be the selling point. The selling point should be the gameplay, which I will say the gameplay is good, but compared to Devil May Cry, Metal Gear Rising, Bayonetta, even Nier Automata, is it is slower. It's not a Souls like, but it has Souls elements in it. So it is more like a Sekiro like, if anything else. So I'm gonna react to my boy, Renegade Operative, and just chime in whenever I need to. So yeah. Let's go there real fast.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is about the Stellar Blade demo, the mechanics, and what I really didn't like and how I was unimpressed throughout the entire journey. I'm gonna
Oh yeah, and the fans of Stellar Blade should be ashamed of themselves because they ran my boy Maximilian off. You know this. You know, said some good things about the game. To their credit, they kind of wasted that opportunity. So here we go.
talk about the things I liked, disliked, and found readily mixed. If you want to see that section, it will be the first part of the video. If you want to see the second part, which is my community response and said community topics. Hopefully you enjoy, and once again,
Already talked
let's do
about the community
this.
stuff,
In
so let's
order
get
to
into the game.
properly identify Stellar Blade, we have to make an opinion on what the game is trying to be. And I think there's a vast amount of generalizations that are adamant and against the idea that it's being classified as a Souls light, having Souls mechanics here or there while playing, like, you know, a faster paced hack and slash game. And I think it's a mixture of hack and slash. I think it's a mixture of RPG elements with the
In my opinion, it's a slower paced action game that has Souls elements in it, since it doesn't have a stamina as far as I know.
skill trees, and I think it is a Souls light. Anyone saying that it's not a get heals, it will reset the enemies if you rest at a station, similar to what Neo and Dark Souls does. When you
Yep.
rest at a spot, the enemies will respawn in their particular location and continue their pathing. There's also bonfires as well. By activating those camps, you have a posture breaking system for the enemies, and this also counts for you in like the skies. It's called a shield. And in similar nature, you could also buy these potions and flasks and map them to your D-pad, similar to how you could take the Estus flask or crackers in Neo and Dark Souls respectively. It is definitely a Souls-like title. Be a perfectly balanced window when trying to perfect dodge. It feels like every millisecond you try to avoid and not get hit before it activates, it doesn't even come out. Not even Royal
Input delay.
Release in Devil May Cry 5 acts this fundamentally punishing as a timing window. This game harbors
Devil May Cry
itself on
parries.
strong parries
They're
with
tough,
weak
but
mobility.
they're fair
Eve has a
if you
dash
pay
that can
attention.
step into an omnidirection at least once before she could do it again. It has a very short stint when pulling one off. You could also air dash, sprint, jump to your liking, etc. However,
the
it doesn't
usual
seem like
action
it
game
all
stuff.
meshes together well with the entirety of the control scheme and its premise. Convoluted is the word I'd
It's not
use when
fluid
trying to
like
string
Ninja
together
Gaiden.
all of these commands. And functionality, well, it feels second rate in this game. Let's compare it to Ryu Hayabusa's simple yet unhindered movement in the Ninja Gaiden games that were 3D. It works
Love
because
Ninja
the
Gaiden.
commands accommodate the fluidity with the combat. Considering how this game is trying to equally be an RPG,
And I may
feel
or may
like
not
this
have a
game
video
is about to lock basic
montage of
features
it coming
behind
up.
that skill tree. And that's all well and dandy, but it doesn't negate the fact that I think that speed accelerators locked to skills is a bad game design. It is no excuse to have a floaty dodge system for any type of game that is marginally fast-paced. This game just doesn't hold a candle to any Souls-like out there that either knows what it wants to be clearly, a Souls-like that is either better made, or hack-and-slash games where none of these problems persist within maneuverability. I know people are gonna say, well, why don't you use that blink move as the perfect dodge replacement? Well, if I could do that as a universal dodge, then that would be grand. Blink only seems to work when the attack
Blue,
indicator
red,
goes blue.
yellow.
Maybe that's a fault of the game design for having more visualized attack indicators than need be, but what do I know? Blink is easier only when the car stops at blue. Even a fucking reflex exospine coveting these senorita cheeks is something I still hated with the defense system. But for the record, the reflex spine allows for easier parry conditions and dodge conditions, and it still felt like it wasn't mechanically good enough or sound enough to say it was a welcome addition to my equipment.
Gameplay problem.
This is where I felt like they flat out didn't complete, despite them being on point with the button press. This certainly feels like it needs to be ironed out and fleshed out
cleaned
before
up,
the final game.
polished.
Just think about faster games that does just frame animations and sound cues much better than Stellar Blade. This is disappointing. It's like this game is the bastardized child of blended up mechanics, but it lacks the ebb and flow for consistency and dodging. To quote a friend, this game's combat is called betas anyway, and just press square and triangle with rarely any variety to excel in combos. This is not like alongside parries to win most battles. This game holds a paradigm for being artificially difficult and way too easy at the same time. With this concept in mind, it's kind of a toss-up. I found the game to be easier in segments, and I found the game to be hard in segments. It feels like there's no real move cancellations either, outside of just doing a beta super. I hate to bring up DMC again, but I mean, just look into how DMC has so many moves you can string in and out of at times, and this game seems to lack move cancellation hardcore. I'm also not the biggest fan of the auto lock system, but you are able to turn it off, so I will be fair, it is an optional condition that you could use. I don't think it's wide enough to handle multiple enemies out of sight. So when Eve is prancing those cheeks and dealing with crowd control, I hope you're ready to spam her beta attack, because that's the only camera is like barely controlling itself. The game still introduces this cumbersome hit the red barrel mechanic against your enemies, and considering you don't have a gun in the beginning of the game, you have to clunkily hit it with your sword in order to blow up enemies with crowd control. It's kind of weird, and it's kind of finicky. You do have grenades, but you can't throw it. Metal Gear Rising had this perfect in mind. You can just throw the grenade in close quarters or far away, and you're able to blow up the enemies, and it's an easier. Since I got a chance to fiddle around with them, maybe there will be more damaging guns with RPG elements behind them, so I won't shit too much on the base pistol. This is a game that just throws you into the oven at times, and you have to hope to pray to whatever god you have at night when dealing with crowd control that the camera will adjust itself properly when you're getting hits. I'm trying to imagine how this system will all work out under the pressure of two lightning fast enemies with cinematic movements that can absolutely beat the fuck out of you, and the camera just probably will not keep up. Who knows? I don't know if this system will collapse under its own weight for being overly ambitious, but I know for a fact, fighting multiple enemies with a sword, I did not like it. To be honest, it's just bad. There's sugarcoating, but I can't sugarcoat this one. This game is a mostly combat-centric experience. It's
Yes.
just not a cut above most of these other games that I
Just a
played, with
run-of-the-mill
the
action
shortcomings
game.
that Stellar Blade has in mind. The voice acting is, for lack of better words, half past
Okay.
dead with the English dub. It's quite astonishing how dead of time just switched to the Korean dub, and the dub is, well, not good. To grab every singular core residual accessibility.
No
The
auto
game
pickup.
has an accessibility feature, but feels like paint by numbers. Open and followed by repeating some of the same similar platforming that you have been doing at least 5 minutes ago. It had a wash and repeat feel. At section, a bad level, I have no idea. All I know is
Your
I wanted to get
tolerance
around
way
to
better
analyzing the
when it comes
fighting
to
quickly
combat.
because everything else around the game bored me to tears. I don't think, let's hope that I'm wrong, but it's that we are mixed about, and this is kind of
Agreed.
interesting. I'm mixed on the enemy design. Sharp, pointy, they could have artillery-based cyborg, dejected enemies that you would see in common hack-a-slash titles, piles of meat to cut through their body, and I saw one really crazy. It feels like what will happen if enemies came from Resident Evil and the DMC reboot at the same time, and they all had a bath. The music is pretty great. Nice female vocals. I love the atmosphere and tone of the
Character
music.
designs.
It gives me a real Nier Automata feel so far. I
Made by
really
the
like
same
this
people
aspect a
that
lot.
made the music for Automata.
Going on in the background, and I thought that was a very, very good fit, actually. I have nothing to complain about whatsoever for the music. Animations within the combat itself aren't really too bad. Eve strikes enemies with a thunderous force, followed by like these hard-hitting combos and flurries, special
wink to the
moves and
attack.
move lists that will probably whet the beak of someone itching to see the being like a AA developer, on a budget that's like not really high, right? Also, I'm not the only one that thinks like Taki, she has like that ability to be a secondary playable character. Dude, that'd be so awesome. Like, holy shit, just having her and having Eve together kicking ass. Maybe, I don't know, for future titles, do some co-op. You know, the sky's the limit. I also this long, slender anime-like characters is serviceable at best. Clearly, this is not like a AAA looking venture. Everything doesn't look like you can fucking eat off the fire on all cylinders, at least with the budget it has. The only thing that's off to me, in my personal opinion, graphically, is just the blood on characters' faces. I don't. This is one of the cooler aspects about Stellar Blade is the presentation. In conclusion, this unfortunately was the
Just
biggest
meh.
5.5 out of 10 demo I've ever played. It's the biggest first game I ever played. It was just mediocre.